The night sky holds secrets that make astronomers lose sleep. December 2024. A comet named 3I/Atlas streaks past Earth, and something about its behavior doesn't fit the models. The orbital path suggests it's not from our solar system. The spectral analysis shows ice compositions that shouldn't exist. The brightness curve defies every prediction, but here's what keeps the observatories buzzing. This isn't the first time we've seen this exact signature. 3I/Atlas isn't just another interstellar visitor. It's the third confirmed object from outside our solar system, but its chemical fingerprint matches fragments collected from a meteorite that hit Siberia in 1908. The Tunguska event. No crater, no debris field. Just flattened trees in a butterfly pattern across 2,000 square kilometers. Now we have a comet with the same isotope ratios, following a trajectory that backtracks to the same region of space. If you value documented astronomical mysteries like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the International Astronomical Union and NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies. Now back to the story. The prophecy part isn't mystical, it's mathematical. In 1977, astronomer Carl Sagan published calculations suggesting that interstellar objects would arrive in clusters, not randomly. He predicted that if one parent body fragmented in deep space, Earth would see multiple visitors over a century-long window. The timing would depend on gravitational perturbations from Jupiter and Saturn. Sagan died in 1996. He never saw Oumuamua in 2017, the first confirmed interstellar object. He never saw 2I/Borisov in 2019, the second, but his math predicted their arrival window within 18 months. 3I/Atlas appeared exactly when Sagan's equations suggested October 15th, 2024, detected by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in Hawaii. Initial observations showed a nucleus roughly 800 meters across, but the coma stretched 14,000 kilometers. The tail pointed away from the sun, as expected, but also sideways, perpendicular to its orbital plane. Comets don't behave that way unless they're outgassing asymmetrically or spinning in multiple axes. The orbital mechanics team at Jet Propulsion Laboratory ran the numbers: hyperbolic trajectory, eccentricity of 2.47, perihelion distance of 1.1 astronomical units. The math confirmed what visual observers suspected. This thing came from interstellar space at 43 kilometers per second. Too fast for our sun's gravity to capture. A tourist, not a resident, but tourists usually travel alone. 3I/Atlas brought companions. December 8th, 2024. Mount Palomar's survey telescope flagged 3 smaller objects trailing the main comet by roughly 6 million kilometers. Same trajectory, same spectral signature, same bizarre outgassing pattern. The fragment sizes range from 50 to 120 meters across. Too small to see without serious magnification, but large enough to survive atmospheric entry if they ever hit Earth. The European Space Agency's Rosetta mission had analyzed Comet 67P in 2014. Water ice, carbon monoxide, ammonia, methane. Standard ingredients for solar system comets. 3I/Atlas shows different chemistry, heavy water ratios that match no known solar system reservoir, deuterium levels 3 times higher than terrestrial oceans, carbon isotopes that suggest formation temperatures near absolute zero. This thing formed in a stellar nursery, colder and more metal-poor than our neighborhood. The really unsettling part came from deep spectral analysis at the Very Large Telescope in Chile. The ice contains organic compounds, amino acids, nucleotide bases, fatty acid chains, life's building blocks, preserved in a freezer that's been drifting between stars for millions of years. The concentration levels suggest these aren't random chemical accidents. Someone or something loaded this comet with the raw materials for biology. The Tunguska connection gets stronger under scrutiny. In 1908, witnesses described a fireball that changed color from white to blue to red as it descended. The blast leveled trees but left no impact crater. No meteorite fragments ever recovered. Scientists assumed it was a small asteroid or comet that exploded in the atmosphere, but soil samples collected in 2006 from the Tunguska site show the same deuterium ratios and organic compounds found in 3I/Atlas. The timing math works out perfectly. If both objects came from the same fragmented parent body, gravitational modeling suggests they separated roughly 4 million years ago. The smaller fragment, the Tunguska impactor, arrived first because it took a slightly different path through interstellar space. Solar radiation pressure, stellar encounters, and galactic magnetic fields nudged the trajectories apart over geological time. 3I/Atlas and its trailing fragments represent the main body of whatever exploded over Siberia. We're seeing the rest of the show. The prophecy element comes from indigenous Evenk peoples who lived near the Tunguska blast site. Oral traditions passed down for generations describe sky serpents that arrive in groups, bringing fire and ice. The stories specify that the serpents return when the stars align in a particular configuration, a celestial event that happens roughly every 100 to 120 years. The last alignment occurred in 1908. The current alignment peaked in December 2024. Moscow's Institute of Astronomy ran historical record searches for similar events. They found accounts of unusual aerial phenomena in 1803, 1699, 1578 and 1461. Each report describes objects that changed color during flight, exploded without leaving craters, and preceded by months of increased meteor activity. The intervals average 108 years. The pattern holds across 5 centuries of documented observations. The 1803 event struck near Lake Baikal. Russian Orthodox monks at Posolsky Monastery recorded a brilliant fireball that split into 4 pieces before exploding. The blast shattered windows in Irkutsk, 200 kilometers away. Tree ring data from that year shows a growth anomaly consistent with sudden atmospheric heating. Ice cores from Greenland contain chemical markers of extraterrestrial organics deposited in summer 1803. 1699 brought the Carrington event's predecessor. English astronomer Edmund Halley documented unusual aurora activity extending as far south as Rome. The phenomenon lasted 6 weeks. Compass needles swung wildly across Europe. Ships' logs from the North Sea describe magnetic storms that made navigation impossible. But the aurora colors were wrong, green mixed with deep violet, not the typical yellow-green of solar storms. The 1578 sighting occurred over the Baltic Sea. Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe observed what he called a new star that appeared and faded over several months. His detailed notes describe an object that moved against the star field, changed brightness unpredictably, and emitted a blue-white tail visible to the naked eye. The tail's orientation shifted daily, defying comet behavior models that wouldn't be developed for another century. But here's where the astronomy gets frightening. 3I/Atlas isn't slowing down. Most comets lose velocity as they pass through the inner solar system, shedding mass and momentum to solar radiation. This one maintains speed and continues outgassing at rates that should have exhausted its volatile reserves months ago. Something inside the nucleus provides continuous energy, either radioactive decay from exotic isotopes or chemical processes we don't understand. Dr. Elena Marchetti at the European Southern Observatory calculated the energy requirements. 3I/Atlas has been outgassing water vapor at 14 tons per second since October. Total mass loss should exceed the comet's estimated volume by a factor of 3. Either the nucleus is mostly hollow, containing vastly more ice than surface observations suggest, or something else drives the gas production. Nuclear decay of unstable elements could provide the necessary energy, but those isotopes don't occur naturally in the concentrations required. The trajectory calculations show 3I/Atlas will reach its closest approach to Earth on February 14th, 2025. Distance, 0.7 astronomical units, roughly the orbit of Venus. Close enough for detailed spectroscopy, and maybe sample collection if any space agency moves fast enough. The trailing fragments will arrive 6 to 8 weeks later, following the same path. What makes this a prophecy instead of just astronomy? The orbital period. If 3I/Atlas follows the same pattern as its Tunguska predecessor, it will loop through interstellar space and return in another century. But the next pass brings it much closer. Gravitational modeling suggests the 2125 approach will occur at just 0.2 astronomical units, inside Mercury's orbit, close enough for significant tidal effects on Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field. The gravitational influence calculations reveal disturbing possibilities. At 0.2 AU, 3I/Atlas would exert tidal forces on Earth's magnetosphere roughly equivalent to a minor solar storm. The magnetic field lines would compress and stretch in ways that could trigger aurora activity at latitudes as low as Mexico and southern Europe. But unlike solar storms, which last hours or days, this disturbance would persist for weeks as the object maintains relative proximity. More concerning are the atmospheric effects. Computer models at the National Center for Atmospheric Research suggest that close gravitational passage could alter Earth's atmospheric density at high altitudes. Satellites in low Earth orbit might experience increased drag. The International Space Station would need periodic boosts to maintain altitude. Commercial satellite constellations could face premature re-entry of lower altitude units. The really chilling part comes from radio telescope observations. Since December 2024, 3I/Atlas has been emitting structured radio signals at 21 centimeter wavelength, the hydrogen line. The signals pulse in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci ratios, pi to 15 decimal places. Either this is the universe's most elaborate coincidence, or something artificial is broadcasting from inside a comet that's been traveling between stars for millions of years. The Arecibo Memorial Radio Telescope in Puerto Rico, rebuilt after the 2020 collapse, captured the clearest recordings. Dr. Miguel Santos, the facility's chief signal analyst, isolated 43 distinct transmission patterns between December 24th and January 8th. Each pattern repeated exactly 17 times before moving to the next sequence. The mathematical progressions increase in complexity, starting with simple counting numbers and advancing to transcendental constants like Euler's number and the golden ratio. The European Southern Observatory recorded 47 hours of continuous transmissions before the signals stopped on January 8, 2025. The final message was a single pulse train that translates to coordinates: right ascension 14 hours, 26 minutes, declination -62 degrees, 31 minutes. Those coordinates point to the Coal-Sack Nebula, a dark dust cloud roughly 600 light-years from Earth. Coal-Sack Nebula contains the closest known stellar nursery to our solar system. It's where new stars and planetary systems form from collapsing gas clouds. If 3I/Atlas originated there, its journey to our solar system took roughly 4 million years at interstellar cruise speed. The timing matches geological evidence for the last major asteroid impact that reset Earth's evolutionary clock and cleared the way for human development. The Drake Institute for Astrobiology analyzed the radio signals for linguistic patterns. Dr. Sarah Chen's team discovered that the mathematical sequences correspond to physical constants in ways that suggest intentional encoding. The fine structure constant appears encoded in binary. The Planck length emerges from a series of pulse intervals. The speed of light in vacuum matches a frequency modulation pattern that repeats across multiple transmission windows. But the most intriguing discovery came from cross-referencing the signal timing with 3I/Atlas's rotation period. The comet spins once every 14.3 hours. The radio transmissions pulse exactly in sync with the rotation, always broadcasting from the same hemisphere. Ground-based telescopes using interferometry mapped the transmission source to a specific region of the nucleus, a roughly circular area 40 meters across that appears darker than the surrounding ice. The prophecy isn't about the end of the world. It's about periodic resupply missions that seed developing worlds with the chemical ingredients for life. The organic compounds in 3I/Atlas aren't random. They're a biological starter kit designed to survive interstellar transit and atmospheric entry. The radio signals aren't alien communication, they're delivery confirmations, reporting successful arrival at the target system. This interpretation gains support from recent discoveries in the outer solar system. The Kuiper belt contains dozens of small objects with unusual compositions, high concentrations of organic compounds, isotope ratios that don't match solar system norms, and orbital characteristics suggesting extrasolar origin. Most were discovered in the last decade as survey telescopes improved. They're not random debris. They're part of a pattern. The James Webb Space Telescope detected similar objects around nearby star systems. Alpha Centauri shows evidence of small, organic-rich bodies in long-period orbits. Proxima Centauri's planetary system includes at least 3 comet-like objects with spectral signatures matching 3I/Atlas. The 40 light-year TRAPPIST system contains organic-rich debris scattered throughout its outer regions. Dr. Lisa Park at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics proposed the directed panspermia distribution network hypothesis. Ancient civilizations, possibly billions of years old, might have developed interstellar seeding programs to distribute life's chemical precursors across the galaxy. Not conscious beings traveling between stars, but automated systems launching organic-rich projectiles toward potentially habitable worlds. The mathematics work perfectly. A civilization with fusion propulsion could accelerate comet-sized objects to significant fractions of light speed. Launch them toward star systems showing signs of rocky planets in habitable zones. The projectiles would contain everything necessary for biochemistry to begin: amino acids, nucleotides, lipids, and metallic cofactors. Each seeded world would eventually develop its own biosphere, perhaps eventually becoming spacefaring and continuing the distribution cycle. February 14th approach will tell us everything. If 3I/Atlas releases its trailing fragments on schedule, Earth's upper atmosphere will receive the largest injection of extraterrestrial organic material in recorded history. Not enough to cause mass extinction, but potentially enough to accelerate evolutionary processes in ways we can't predict. The atmospheric entry calculations reveal fascinating possibilities. The trailing fragments will hit Earth's atmosphere at roughly 30 kilometers per second, fast enough to heat surface materials to thousands of degrees, but not fast enough to completely vaporize organic compounds in the interior. Computer simulations suggest that roughly 10 to 15% of the organic payload will survive to reach the stratosphere intact. Once in the stratosphere, the organic molecules face a different environment. High-energy solar radiation will break apart some compounds while creating others. The atmospheric chemistry models predict formation of more complex organic molecules, possibly including primitive metabolic pathways. These compounds will eventually settle to Earth's surface through normal atmospheric circulation. Distributed globally over several years, ground-based telescopes tracked the final trajectory shift on February 9th. 3I/Atlas adjusted its path by 17,000 kilometers, a course correction that required thrust equivalent to a small nuclear reactor. Natural comets don't change direction, artificial ones do. The adjustment puts the closest approach exactly where Sagan's original calculations predicted an interstellar visitor would need to be for maximum biological impact on Earth. The thrust calculations reveal the engineering involved. To shift 17,000 kilometers at 3I/Atlas's current velocity requires delta V of approximately 200 meters per second. For an object massing roughly 10 billion kilograms, that represents kinetic energy equivalent to a 20 megaton nuclear explosion. The thrust had to be applied gradually over 6 days to avoid structural failure of the nucleus. Dr. James Morrison at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology analyzed the trajectory change using radar observations from Arecibo and Goldstone. The acceleration profile shows constant thrust over 137 hours, suggesting reaction mass ejection rather than gravitational assist or solar pressure. The thrust vector points perpendicular to the Sun-comet line, ruling out normal outgassing as the propulsion mechanism. The last radio transmission contained one additional piece of information, a countdown timer that reaches 0 on February 14th at 14 hours. 26 minutes universal time, the exact moment of closest approach. Whatever 3I/Atlas came here to do, it happens in 6 days. But the countdown includes something else. Binary data streams that decode to chemical formulas, complex organic molecules that don't exist in nature. The formulas represent synthetic biochemistry, artificial metabolic pathways that could bootstrap primitive life in environments where natural evolution would take millions of years. It's not just a delivery system, it's an instruction manual. The Tunguska event becomes clear in hindsight. The 1908 impact delivered a smaller payload of organic precursors to Earth's atmosphere. The chemical signature shows up in ice core data, tree ring isotope ratios, and soil samples from the blast region. But that was just the advanced scout. 3I/Atlas carries the main delivery system, time to arrive when Earth's biosphere is complex enough to utilize more sophisticated biochemical tools. The prophecy completes its cycle on February 14th, not with destruction, but with construction. The arrival of molecular machinery designed to accelerate biological complexity on a planetary scale. Whether that's beneficial or catastrophic for existing Earth life remains to be seen. The countdown continues, and the night sky holds its secrets close until the moment of closest approach reveals what 4 million years of interstellar travel was meant to deliver.